I reminisce about the love we had. I reminisce about the love we had. Tender moments seem to go so fast. Reminisce, reminisce. I reminisce about the love we had. I reminisce about the love we had. A love so strong it will never pass.
Love Park Connection.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So today, you see this young lady sitting next to me? She is my co-host for this episode. When Pierre is not available, then she'll be sitting in and having these interesting discussions because she has a wealth of experience. And I'm just glad that she agreed to join me today.
Honored to be here.
Thank you, my love. So today we are going to talk about how personalities and attitudes play a significant role in shaping your relationship. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Angela, and Pierre is not here today, but we are a husband and wife marriage and relationship coaching duo, and we've been married 27 years, together for over 30 years, and it is our goal to help Black couples communicate more, love more, and build long-term healthy relationships. So again, thank you for joining us. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We are trying to build our channel. So my love, you know what we're going to talk about today.
I sure do.
You do.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, and she has so much experience. She was married for over 20 years, and now she's out in these streets dating.
Lord, these streets.
So
You don't want to be in these streets.
no, that's what she tells me all the time. Her and my sister be like, "No, you don't want to be out there." I'm like, "No, I don't." So when you think of compatibility and personalities and how it can impact the success of a relationship, how do you think that compatibility pertaining to attitudes and personalities, how do you think that, in your own experience, how do you think that can impact your relationship?
It plays a big role in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because who you are is the big key in
Yeah.
your relationships.
Right.
So when I got married, I didn't know who I was.
Right.
And so I basically was still developing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was a people pleaser. You know that.
Yeah. Yes.
So I tried to be who I thought he wanted me to be.
Right.
And so somewhere along the line, I got lost. The me I knew, I didn't know who I was, but it completely got lost. And I was striving to be someone to earn his love. But love is unconditional.
Right.
And so within all of that, there was, you just end up angry and hurt and sad inside.
Right.
And so I had developed self-love
Mm-hmm.
and discover who I was to develop compatibility, period.
Right.
Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know who you're compatible with.
True.
But then
That's
also,
true.
you've also
Yeah.
seen it with relationships. You know who's the dominant one.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's the controlling one.
Right.
And unfortunately, you can even tell in some relationships who's the abusing one.
Right.
And so in all of those things, it's just, you can actually see
Mm-hmm.
in that. But there's all types of compatibility. You see people who are similar,
Mm-hmm.
opposites attract.
Right.
And so it plays a huge part in all of those things.
Because I noticed, and I tease Pierre, because Pierre and I are opposites, and thankfully we balance each other out. But her and Pierre are so similar,
Oh my God.
even to the smallest thing. Like, I love chocolate chip cookies. Pierre loves oatmeal cookies. She likes oatmeal cookies.
I like and I don't like chocolate chip. I do eat chocolate chip cookies, but I like oatmeal better.
Right, and that's the same with him. He'll eat them, but he's like, I'd rather oatmeal. And I'm like, I always tease. I'm like, you two, you and Katrece are so much alike. It's just amazing that you guys lasted as long as you did.
Well, what's so funny, and as people if they've watched the prior podcast, Pierre and I dated for an extended period of time.
Right.
That is how you and I connected.
Right.
But I always say,
we should have lasted 2 weeks and then should have just been friends. So,
but it's just that the compatibility,
Yeah,
we're talking
because-
about opposites. And,
yeah,
you know.
because the two of you are perfect together.
Right.
I watch them all the time, and they are so beautiful together because they balance each other
Right.
out in such a beautiful way.
Right.
Whereas he and I, we're great as friends.
Right.
We are homies,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the compatibility because, and well, let's go further.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that also in that compatibility piece, that you do need to respect, if you're opposites, then you do need to respect that person's opposite, in order to balance each other out. So it just makes things a lot easier if you understand, okay, so this person is a talker, like Pierre, he's a talker. I'm not as much of a talker, I'm getting better, but I'm not as much of a talker as he is, but I have to learn to respect that that's who he is and appreciate that difference.
But it's accepting the person for who they are.
Exactly.
And it's appreciating those differences.
Exactly.
So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the balance and
It's the
appreciation and accepting that person for who they are. So that's the beauty, like I said, I like between the two of you.
Yeah.
He is a talker. He can out-talk me, which is a lot. I can talk, that man can out-talk me, but you balance him.
Mhm.
You can, like, as I always say, you are a beautiful anchor for him.
Right.
So, like, you are there and you stabilize him in many ways.
Right.
And he stabilizes you in many
Definitely.
ways.
Yeah.
So where you guys are opposites,
Mhm.
it's like while it's opposites, it's a balancing opposite.
Exactly.
And he appreciates the differences.
Right.
And you appreciate the differences.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It is really helpful again when you appreciate and you take those differences and you utilize them again to balance your relationship out.
Absolutely.
Communication. So everybody has unique communication style, whether it's just body language, whether it's you're a talker and someone else is a listener. We all have different communication styles, and that also plays a role in who we are, who our personalities are. So based on communication styles, in your opinion, how do you think that impacts the relationship? Because personality and communication, again, we use Pierre as an example. He's a talker, that's his personality, but that's also how he primarily communicates. Whereas some people might read body language. How do you think that impacts when you have different personalities and different communication styles?
So for me, my parents were deaf.
Uh-huh.
And English is my second language, sign language is first.
Right.
And in sign language, we read body language.
Mm-hmm.
I also read tone.
Mm.
And so I always tell people, the hearing culture, you are taught to lie.
Yeah.
So if you say, how are you today? You guys say fine.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time people are not fine. They're upset, they're angry, they're hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like in sign language, you say, how are you today? And they'll be like, oh, I'm fine. Or they might be like, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. You can tell from their body language how they really are.
Mm-hmm.
So like from like my son, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? And he was like, nothing. And he's slamming every cabinet and door shut. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then 2 weeks later, he was like, I was angry that day. I was like, really?
Right.
No kidding. I didn't know that. That's part of the communication for
Right.
me. So when in one of my relationships, my ex, he used to think I was going through his phone because I could tell from his communication, his tone, his body language,
Mhm.
something was up.
Uh-huh.
And I won't lie, I started snooping through his phone to prove to him that I wasn't snooping through his phone, to
Right.
give him the proof because I could tell something was off.
Right.
And it's like, if you pay attention, your partner has tells. We all have tells.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay attention, if you watch the body language, if you watch the tones, we all have a pattern of how we say things,
Right.
how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important. So for me, it's just understanding that. I've had to learn to back off because, like I said, hearing people lie. But most people don't, if they're not ready to tell you, they're not ready to tell you.
Right.
So I've had to learn to respect that
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not ready to tell me, I back off.
Yeah.
And when they're ready to tell me, I'm there to listen. But I also acknowledge my own self that I picked up on something.
Yeah.
And that's my style of communication. And I advocate for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have been more open to say, I'm feeling something.
Yeah.
I feel something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Or just my style of communication. So like my oldest daughter, you know, for me, I can get white hot angry.
Yeah.
And if I'm white hot angry, I know I'm gonna say something that's not gonna be nice. So I need some time to cool down.
Yeah.
My daughter, my oldest daughter, she wants to talk right now. So for her, I'm like, the compromise is I need 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to you in 30 minutes. She needs that time so that she won't go spinning out.
Right.
I need the time to cool down. So then we can come back together and we can have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I need the time to calm down. She needs the time so that she knows we're gonna talk.
Right. Right.
Because if I just let her, I need time, and she doesn't have that time frame,
Right.
her mind is going 51, she's thinking all kind of scenarios.
Right.
So we have to, that's the self-love I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I have to advocate for what I need,
Right.
but I also have to communicate and be respectful and compromise
Right.
to the needs of the people that surround me.
And that's a good, I mean, the point about body language, and you're very right, the hearing have been taught to lie because, you know, being, you know, my first language is actually verbally talking. We don't think people want to hear that we're upset. Or, and most people don't. I mean, let's just be honest, most people don't. But when it comes to your relationship, then you should be able to tell your partner, look, this is how I'm feeling. And in turn, your partner, you guys, we need to learn to read our partner's body language and understand, okay, that body language, what they're showing right now, there's something going on. Yes, go ahead and ask, you okay? And if they say, no, if they say, I'm fine, then just back off. Because at some point, they probably will tell you what's going on.
I would hope they would.
I would hope so too. But we have to learn, and I think that's a beautiful thing to learn someone's body language. Maybe I'll make that a course, reading body language.
Okay. I mean, there is that show Lie to Me with the micro.
I like it.
I love that show.
I love
but,
that
you know.
show. But yeah, we need to really try to pick up on that and be in tune with our partner's body language.
Very true.
So, I mean, that's, you know, and the other thing you said about compromise with, you know, with your daughter, giving her that time frame. You're right. She's not spinning out of control and then just gets so flustered that it becomes bigger than it needs to be. The conversation becomes bigger than it needs to be. So that, I think, is very important for the compromising. And that goes not just with your children, but with your mate, with
Right.
your partner. Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I said it. Because like I said, I need the time.
exactly.
Because I don't want to say something because words have power.
Oh.
And I don't want to say something that I'll regret.
Right.
But on the flip side, I'm the same way on some things because I've been with people I won't get that are like the silent treatment. I can't stand the silent treatment. I do need to communicate at some point.
At some point.
At
yeah.
some point. So on the flip side, tell me if you need some time. Give me a time frame.
Right.
You want some time? Tell me how much time you need.
Right.
Because I can spin out too. We all can.
We all can.
So if you need to go, or if you need to go for, you know, if you need to get out the house, I'm going for a drive.
Right.
How long will you be gone?
Right.
Don't just leave.
Right.
That's how stuff happens.
Right.
Because
Right.
life is, I always say life is short.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the next moment holds.
True.
So communicate.
Right. Exactly.
Don't just go in action. Say, I need to get out. I do need to get away.
Right.
I need to go for a walk. I need to go for a drive. I'll be back in an hour.
Right.
I'll be back in 30 minutes.
Right.
I need to clear my head.
Yeah.
But that communicates and it doesn't leave your partner sitting in that mess
Mm-hmm.
alone, spitting out of control.
Exactly. No, that's very true. Emotional responses. So again, we have personalities and attitudes that can influence emotional responses.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think someone should deal with if they have an emotional response and your partner's personality is I don't want to deal with it. I'm not concerned with your emotion right now. I don't want to deal with it. What impact do you see? How does that contribute to a negative or positive impact on that relationship?
Well, as you know, I can be a lot.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Even for me, I've had to get used to it. Now I just don't even, it doesn't even bother me. But yes, she can be.
I've been told I can be a lot. But it's interesting that you say that. Is I've had a lot of people try to shape and mold and control me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And in doing that, like my first boyfriend, I was 13 years old.
Right.
It's a very impressionable age.
Definitely. Yeah.
He compared me to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to have your hair like hers. You need to have a body like hers. And back then, I mean, I'm thick. Back then, thick was not in.
Right.
It was thin.
Right.
So, I'm trying to lose weight. Back then, dark skin was not in. Light skin was in.
Right.
So there's that. One of the impacts for me is I suffered, I still deal with it, low self-esteem, because it's very impressionable.
Right.
People don't believe that. Oh, you know how you look. No, I didn't.
Right.
I still struggle because I wasn't told I wasn't told positive things.
Right.
I was told a lot of negative things.
Uh-huh.
So then when I was married, but I'll go before that. In high school, my girlfriend's, her boyfriend came on campus. He was an amazing person. I ran across the campus and jumped into his arms. He ain't my boyfriend. He's hers.
Right.
I was just so happy to see him. That's just how I am.
You're very emotional.
Yes. He died 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just happy that I expressed myself to him.
Right.
That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be really happy to see my husband when he would come home from work.
Yeah.
He used to tell me, stop acting like a puppy peeing on yourself. Who wants to hear that?
Right.
And he would say that about him, about my friends coming over. So then it was like, okay. So I'd have to dampen my spirit down.
Yeah.
And shut myself down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my husband's coming home. Don't get excited. Don't get excited.
Right.
But, where we would go to church, there was this little girl. And I don't even know how it started. But every time I saw her, I would just get really excited to see her and give her this huge hug.
Yeah.
And a few months later, her dad came up to me and he said, thank you for that. And I was like, thank you for what? And he said, her mom and I are going through a divorce. Mm-hmm. And she's been sad most of this time. And the only time she gets excited is to come to church to see you.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big turning points for me because I was like, God created me this way.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't handle me, it's okay. Yeah. I'm not for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And that's all right. So it can give an impact. Mm-hmm. One of the things that you hear is you want to, everyone comes with baggage.
Right.
You want to meet someone whose baggage you want to unpack.
Yeah. Oh, I like that one.
So for me, I need to meet someone who wants to unpack my baggage with me. Right. You might open the baggage and be like, oh, I don't like that goal.
Right.
Or you might meet someone, their baggage is cool, but they don't like you.
Right.
So I get it. I hate saying find someone who can handle me. No. Right. Because I don't want to be handled.
Someone who can appreciate your authenticity.
Yes.
Your emotional authenticity.
Because at this point in my life, I have no more fuck bucks to give.
Right.
I'm being authentically me.
Right.
If you can't appreciate it,
right,
I'm okay. Because as I've learned, not everyone is worthy to sit at my table.
I like that.
And
I like that.
And that is okay.
Right.
The buffet I prepare, not buffet because I don't prepare buffets, but the meal I prepare. The meal I prepare is not for everyone.
Right.
And everyone's not worthy.
Right.
And it's okay. But I used to allow everyone at my table. Mm-hmm. And that does cause damage.
Right.
But when you start to love yourself, which is very cliche, you start to respect yourself. Right. You start to appreciate yourself. You start to protect yourself. And you start to advocate for yourself. Yeah. And in that advocating for yourself, you communicate your needs. You communicate, you talk, and you will remove people and set boundaries.
Yeah, that's important, setting the boundaries.
Mhm.
Even when it comes to how you project yourself emotionally, you'll start setting those boundaries because, yeah, you're right. Everybody doesn't need to be involved or be around your emotional, your emotional state.
Absolutely.
So,
Everybody, unfortunately, I used to let everybody have access. Everyone doesn't deserve to have access.
right, because maybe they don't know how to handle it.
Or
Or
they
they'll take advantage of it.
take
abuse
advantage
it,
of you, or they'll cause more damage.
Mhm. Yeah.
They have to, they have to, when you first meet someone, they have to show that they're worthy to have access to you.
Mhm.
We are all precious individuals.
Right.
We're all rare diamonds.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you would treat yourself like this 20-carat priceless diamond,
Right.
would you hand that to just anyone?
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't. So it's the same thing with your emotional well-being.
Right.
Because I'm in therapy. I take therapy. It's okay.
Right.
We all have little children inside, and we have to take care of that little child.
Right.
So when you see an adult going buck wild, that's usually their inner child acting out. So
Yeah.
we'll
touch upon that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. How do you think individuals with differing personalities can handle conflicts and disagreements? I mean, how should they handle it, and what kind of impact can the different personalities have in dealing with conflicts? Because some people are yellers, some people shut down, some people, like you said, want to sit back and think about what the conversation is being said and then resume it at a later time when they've had a chance to digest everything that's being said.
Gosh, we can go all day with that one. But honestly, at my age, honestly, one, I want to be with someone who's going to be my best friend. Mm-hmm. And if we're best friends, we're able to communicate to me about anything. I have been in a relationship with yellers. I have been in relationships who don't want to talk. I'm one of those people, it has taken me a long time to learn how to express my anger. But at the end of the day, you have to communicate.
Right.
And I feel at our age, and I say this because I'm 55. This lovely
she just
one,
had a birthday.
I just had a birthday. And this lovely one's about to be 57.
57.
Where? But I feel, because I was in a relationship, and I was like, he was a Scorpion. When he would get angry, I swear I could see his tail moving. The scorpion tail. And I was like, I don't want to get zapped. What the heck? Because I'm one of those people, just tell me what's wrong.
Right.
Just talk to me. What's bothering you?
Right.
What is bothering you? There is nothing that's not bothering you. Just tell me what's wrong. We can communicate.
Right.
You don't need to just zap me. You don't need to shut down.
Right.
Just talk to me. But like I said, we all have baggage.
Yeah.
I don't know what the past relationships were. But in our case, it was just the communication style. And at the end of the day, you have to talk about it and be open to hearing it and not being afraid to be authentic with what's going on. Because I think that's one of the key things is a lot of people are afraid to be authentic with what's really bothering them.
Yes.
Because if I really tell them what's really going on,
will they
listen?
Right.
Will they get hurt?
Right.
Will they judge me?
Right. And I think that's the biggest one,
Will
the judgment.
they judge me? But beyond that too is sometimes you have to agree to disagree, and it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
No, it's not.
Sometimes it's just okay.
Right.
And you have your viewpoint, I have mine.
Exactly.
And then sometimes, what's the compromise? So, as I was saying, I was in an international relationship. He was fine. Yes, he was fine.
Yes, he was.
It was during COVID, and we did break up. But when we broke up, we had a discussion, and I asked him about conflict resolution on his past relationships.
Mhm.
And he said, and not to share his business, he said, you know, they broke up, and we all have core needs.
Right.
And this is where the little person inside, the little child inside of you, if your core needs are not being met, the little child inside of you will act a fool and have a temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the adult that we are has to soothe the little child, saying, you got this.
Right.
So him saying a past partner had a core need not being met.
Mm-hmm.
And he expressed that he didn't want to do that. And she said, okay. I said, well, what's the compromise? And he said, well, she said, okay. I said, well, that's not a compromise.
That's not a compromise. No.
And he said, yes, it was. I said, no, she said, okay, that means she hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so I can say our example. I said, so for example, he is not a phone talker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was living back and forth in Europe.
Right.
So when I got here, the borders were shut.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need connection. That's my core need.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't go there and you can't come here, some kind of connection, whether it's text or phone,
Right.
I need connection.
Right.
So now if you tell me that you don't want to talk on the phone and you don't want to text, where's my connection?
Yeah.
So now my core need's not being met.
Right.
So compromise would have been, so for example, we can talk Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That way, my core needs know Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, my needs are being met.
Right.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, your core needs being met.
Right.
And that's compromise.
Right.
I can soothe my little child.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Right.
You can soothe yours.
Right.
That's compromise.
Right.
But it took a lot of work for me to get to that point.
And I think people look at the word compromise as something that's negative instead of realizing that it can be a win-win situation, even though it might not always be 50-50. But in a relationship, it's not always 50-50.
Because in a relationship, I believe my partner comes first.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe my partner should feel I come first.
Right.
And if we're thinking that way, because there's going to be times where my partner's holding me up,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to be times I'm holding my partners up.
Exactly.
My partner up. So at the end of the day, if that's the way you're thinking about,
Right.
yes, it's not always a win-win.
Right.
Sometimes the compromise might be 75-25,
Right.
60-40, 50-50.
Right.
Or sometimes it's going to be, we agree to disagree.
Right.
But if we are trying to put each other first,
Right.
we are both winning.
And the compromises can alleviate the conflicts.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, of course, we're always going to have some type of conflict. Compromise is not going to always be the answer, but it needs to be, in my opinion, at least the majority of the way you resolve those conflicts.
Absolutely. Because again, if your partner is your best friend,
Right. Right.
then you are communicating
Mm-hmm.
with honesty
Right.
and authenticity
Right.
without fear of judgment.
Right.
Because I call it, with my children, I call it a free spot,
Yeah.
where they could talk to me about anything without feeling like they were going to be punished.
Right.
So it's the same thing. And I don't mean like after the fact.
Right.
Right.
Right. Don't come to me after
you done did
after
some
you done-
dirt.
Right. Don't come to me after you done did some dirt. Right.
But you know, if I would rather my partner come to me, baby, I'm struggling, I'm really attracted to this woman at work.
Right.
Because if I'm in very best friend mode, let's get to why you're attracted to this person.
Right.
Is it because we're not, life happens. We get busy.
Right.
Maybe we aren't connecting emotionally.
Right.
And now the door's open where you're connecting somewhere else.
Exactly.
So if we're talking about it,
Right.
we can get to the meat of it, the root,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out we need to connect more,
Right.
which shuts down the attraction over here.
Exactly.
Because he ain't dead. I'm not dead. So I expect you to be attracted on some level.
Right. Right.
But if there is more going on, I would rather them come to me.
And if you turn around, and this is always cracks me up when you hear couples say, "No, I don't look at other women," or "I don't look
they
at
lie.
other." They're lying. You're lying because you're right. You're not dead.
Thank you.
And just to be open and honest and tell, and have those discussions. Pierre will see some woman and, oh, she looks good. I'm like, yeah, she is pretty. because one, I'm secure in my marriage.
Thank you.
But two, if he didn't say that, or if he turned around and lied and said, no, I don't look at other women, I'm like, you're lying. Why are you lying? Don't, just
Be honest.
be honest.
I was in a relationship, and he would tell me all the time he saw a beautiful woman. We'd be like, oh, she's fine. I'd be like, oh, she is fine. Or I'd be
Exactly.
like, oh, babe, you see what she got on? He was like, oh, it's tight. He's like, but you look better. And I'd be like, oh, babe.
Right.
Or I'd be like, man, he's fine. I'd be like, he's like, oh, okay. There's nothing. We're human.
We are. Right.
We are human, but that's where the best friend,
Right.
because at the end of the day, they're coming home to you.
Exactly.
They are coming home to you. But there's got to be a level of trust
Yeah.
and honesty.
Right.
So would I rather them come home and talk to me?
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've seen where instead of being in the same relationship, would he stay honest with it? No.
Mm-hmm.
He told me what he wanted me to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept up with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it has to be full authenticity.
Right.
It has to be authentic.
Yeah. I agree. That's definitely important. The authenticity
Mhm.
and open honesty, and not being judgmental when your partner is coming to you saying, look, I'm struggling.
Yes.
You have to be, willing to have that safe space where you put on your friendship hat and not your spouse hat, and get down, like you said, get to the core and the meat and the foundation of what's going on so you guys can work through it. Attitudes, and we talked about this, but attitudes towards growth and self-improvement.
Mm.
Do you find, or have you found, that when you're trying to grow and you're trying to become a better person, that your partner is either, I'm not going to say sabotaging, that might not be the right word, but is having trouble because they're not growing? Because, we don't always grow at the same time.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we do grow together individually and as a couple, but we don't always grow together at the same time. So have you found in your relationships, or even in your marriage, that you were growing and they were either upset, angry, or just didn't support your growth?
So there's 2 points here I will say. Self-growth, self-improvement, growth
Mhm.
is forever. It's continual.
Yes.
It's, I learned this on TikTok.
Okay.
It's like a spiral staircase.
Mm-hmm.
It's just continually moving up.
Mhm.
Last year I went to Paris, France with a very close friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the Arc de Triomphe. I hope I said that correctly. I didn't know they had an elevator. I wish I did. Chaba. So I did the spiral staircase. It's over 200 plus stairs. I thought I was going to die going up this damn spiral staircase. You look down, it looks the same. You look up, it looks the same.
Yeah.
And it was, so I physically felt this spiral staircase, which was a metaphor for self-growth.
Yeah.
But it is the true thing. It feels like you're not moving because the stairs are the same.
Right.
But that it is how it is in life.
Mm-hmm.
In a partnership, you would hope to grow together.
Right.
Because if you grow apart, sometimes you can grow so far apart,
Yeah.
you will never get back.
Right.
I can say that because in my marriage, we grew apart. And the woman, as you know, the woman I am today is not the woman I was when we met,
No.
the woman I was 5 years ago.
Right.
So if you grow apart, you sometimes cannot get back.
Right.
So you do have to grow somewhat. All right, we're doing the work together.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we can be hyper-focused
Mm-hmm.
on an issue that our partner might be struggling with in growth.
Right.
So I already pre-did this. So I do this when I talk to some people.
Mm.
So this piece of paper is your partner.
Right.
This might be the issue that you're dealing with. And so I always say, what do you see? Most people say they see a dot.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you're hyper-focused on. We're so hyper-focused on this dot that we forget all of this other goodness that this is our partner.
Mm-hmm.
This dot is small compared to this piece of paper.
Right.
If we stop focusing on the dot and we start remembering all this other goodness,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it takes the pressure off that dot.
And sometimes that dot is even very temporary. It could be that problem.
It can be circumstantial for
Right.
that for a season. It could be circumstances, and it could just go away on its own.
Right.
Or it could be for it just needs to be a conversation.
Right.
What's going on?
Right.
Or it just needs you to take the focus off of it for your partner to work through it.
Mm. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as long as you both are doing your work,
Mm-hmm.
as I've said before, when I was 45, I shattered
Right.
and I got into therapy.
Right.
And I've done my work. And at 50,
Yes.
I graduated, so to speak. And my therapist said, "Oh, you be free." But we
Yeah.
stayed in touch. And then at 50, I graduated. At 53, I was matriarch already, but the last elder on my mother's side passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And my little girl in me had to tell, I don't want to do this alone. I don't have any
Right.
elders. And I called my therapist back. I said, yeah, I need therapy again because I needed someone to ground me.
Around you. Yeah.
And so I'm back in therapy by choice.
Yeah.
And I'm so gracious that my father's family now has come back into my life. So I have
Right.
elders again
Right.
from my father's side. But in those moments, I still have my therapist
Yeah.
they helps me stay grounded. Because there are tools that I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know everything.
Exactly.
And so there are things and tools that my therapist helped me work through because we live in a fast food society. That everything we go through pain, we want it to be gone quick.
And that's why there's so many people popping pills
Thank you.
to get rid of the pain.
She had me, you want to sit with it. Sit with what? She's like, you need to sit in that pain.
Nobody wants to sit in pain. Nobody wants
She was
to
like,
sit
you
in
need to
pain.
sit with
Yeah.
it and figure out what's going on. I said, where? She said, sit with it. See what bubbles, what comes out of that. What is really going on.
Mm-hmm.
Or the relationships that's why I'm single. You know, I was attracting the same men.
Right.
The common denominator was me.
Right.
So I had to sit with that.
Right.
Why am I attracting the same time? What did I need to heal in me?
Right.
And that's when I need to love myself. Because if I love myself, I like myself. I like myself, I'm going to respect myself. I'm going to protect myself.
Right.
I'm going to advocate for myself.
And I think as when you have a partner who is willing to do and wants to do the work, that it's
Absolutely.
important that you support your partner in that. Even if you're at that moment, you don't want to do the work, or you might think, I don't need to do the work. And to me, when somebody says, I don't need to do the work, I'm fine.
That's a problem.
That's
They're
a
not
problem.
fine.
They're not fine.
And they're hiding something.
They're hiding, right? Even if they're hiding it from themselves. But I think it's important that that you appreciate and support if your partner's saying, I just need to talk to someone. It might not be anything serious. I just need to make sure that what I'm thinking is okay or how I'm feeling is okay. So it's a support thing too.
There's so many avenues you can get. So, as couples, there's couples therapy. There are books. There are your sessions.
Right.
There are they can come to your sessions.
Right,
and get some.
exactly.
There are so many ways that people can now have access to
help,
grow.
to grow.
Because it's not always it's about growth.
Right.
It is about growth. Because
Right.
again, everyone, if they were to sit down and think about it, they are not the same today as they were last year,
No.
as they were 5 years ago.
No.
We are continually growing and
Right.
changing.
And especially for women, after a certain age, we hit 50, you're right, the fuck bucks go out the door and, you do become another person and your partner might say, who is this person? But men also change too. That's not something I could speak on. That would be something Pierre would have to speak more on. But we do change and there's nothing wrong with it because as women, we have given for the most part, especially if you have children and you're in relationships, you give yourself to your children and your relationships and you put yourself on the back burner. But then you hit a certain age, you're like, no, I'm gonna put myself first.
So there was a YouTube TED Talk, No More Fuckbucks to Give. I was a people pleaser, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother taught me, you speak to everybody. But that's energy given.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I would speak to people, and there was one lady in particular, I would speak to her and she would give me attitude back. That energy, it wouldn't hurt my feelings, but it was a feeling.
Right.
And so when I saw this YouTube about no more fuck bucks to give, if you had 10 fuck bucks and you got to choose how to spend them, and they said, "Oh, keep them," and I thought about that. And so I stopped speaking to people I didn't want to extend those fuck bucks with that energy.
Right.
That felt so good. And so I didn't speak to her no more.
Right.
And it wasn't negative. It just was, I didn't extend that energy.
Right.
If she spoke, I then acknowledged, but I didn't extend that energy.
Right.
And it was so freeing for me. And now I'm not a people pleaser. As you said, I'm over 50. You either like me or you don't.
Right.
And if you don't, it's okay.
It's okay. Right.
I'm okay with it. Because I'm authentically who I am.
Right.
This is me.
Right.
Love it or like it.
Right.
It's okay.
Man, love it, like it, or don't.
It's quite all right. It is quite all right.
Right.
Because those who love me love me.
Right.
And I appreciate those people who do.
Right.
And having that, it gives me a peace. Because again, not everyone is worthy to sit at my table.
And it's exhausting trying to mold yourself to, because you're not going to get everyone to like you, and it can be exhausting if you're trying to mold yourself so everybody likes you. It's exhausting, and it's not good mentally.
So as I said, I was a people pleaser, and I used to try to please everybody. And what I found is, in trying to please everybody, you still don't please everybody, and then the person that's left holding it is yourself.
Right.
And then if you do it their way and it doesn't work out, you're the one left holding it. Right. And you're like, you don't like the results, and you didn't even choose it.
And you've changed your personality
for someone else who you still aren't pleasing.
Exactly.
So it's like the only person that you need to please, and I won't say please, but the only person you can live for is you.
Right.
So I started making my own decisions and living for me. Life is short. Right. So I love life and I live love. And I do things for me.
Right.
And that's all I can do.
Right.
I can't please everyone, but I can love life and live in love and do it lovingly and authentically.
Yeah. Exactly. And that even goes for your partner. You know, that even goes when you're trying to, please your partner. Yes, you want to please that person, but that person also has to respect and honor and understand who you are authentically.
Your partner has to accept who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So one last question, and I ask this to Mr. Parker too when we're doing our podcast. If you had a young couple come up to you, male or female or both, and they say, my partner's personality, we're so different. We can't seem to get on the same page. And we're just having, just difficulties communicating and being together. What would be your advice, particularly about, the different personalities and learning how to respect those personalities and work together as a couple?
Kind of what I just said. I have a lot of brothers. I actually have two brothers now, but I have a lot of brothers. And when they've talked to me about people, what I've said to them is, and friends, female friends too, can you accept this person for who they are in this moment, right now? Not their potential, not who you can make them over to be,
right? And
not their PR person,
right?
But who they are.
And PR is public relations.
Yes, gosh, I hate the PR person. Oh, show me your authentic person. But who they are in this moment,
right
now. That's that person. Accept them for that in that moment.
Right.
If you can, then great. I say that because in my marriage, I'm thankful for my marriage. I was married almost 22 years. We have beautiful children. But my husband, I believe he married me to be married. He didn't marry me for me. I don't even think he liked me. Because at the end of the day, he went to Church of God in Christ, Kojic, his mother, when we go to, God rest her soul, go to her church, she'd be like, baby, don't wear a lot of makeup. Back then, I didn't wear anything but red lipstick. I didn't wear foundation. I didn't wear mascara, nothing but red lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole church, they had their full face beat, but natural lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what is she talking? I was like, what is she talking about? And then I realized, oh, she doesn't want me to wear my red lipstick. But that's who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was a free spirit.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be like, don't walk that way. Why are you dressed that way? Don't do this. That's who I was.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Okay.
tried to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And finally I said, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
How I walk, my grandmother said, baby, you better walk like you own the ground that you walk on. I paid my taxes. And my cousins walk that way.
Right.
It is who we are.
Right.
I can't change that.
And nor should you.
No, I shouldn't. But he didn't appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't accept me for who I was.
Right.
He was trying to mold me into who he wanted.
Right.
We all have expectations.
Right.
And we have to verbalize with what our expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
But again, can you accept that person for who they are in this moment
Right.
without changing anything?
Right.
If you can say yes,
Yeah.
great. If you can't,
Mm-hmm.
then you have some thinking that you need to do.
Right.
You really have some thinking that you need to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell them.
Okay.
I mean, if you're already in the relationship, then you guys have some really deep conversations about what's really going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you have to be authentically you.
You do.
You have to be no PR person.
Right.
But that's where the best friend comes in,
Right.
where you can, without judgment and fear,
Yeah.
talk openly with your partner.
And that does take time. It does take time to develop, but it has to be done in order for you to have a true, solid, healthy relationship. It takes time, but it's important. It's imperative to really be able to get to that point where you're talking and you feel that you can be authentic without judgment.
Reminds me of an episode on Different World where Whitley had just married Dwayne Wade. And before he'd wake up, she'd sneak out of the bed. She'd brush her hair, brush her teeth.
Oh, then get back in the bed. Yeah, I remember
pinch
that.
her cheeks.
Right, right. I
Flat
remember
her
that.
hair up.
Right, because she.
And then he'd wake up and think she'd wake up looking so beautiful.
Right.
That wasn't who she really
No,
was.
yeah, exactly.
She was
I
gonna be
forgot
her
about that one.
authentic self.
Right.
We have to be our authentic selves.
Definitely.
I mean, but on the flip side, don't let yourself go, ladies. We gotta, what
Yeah.
you did to get him, keep
Keep
get that
working
body right.
Right.
Man, what you did to get her,
Keep doing
keep
it.
doing it.
Right.
It's the give and take, but be your authentic self.
Exactly.
But I love catering.
Yeah.
Cater to him. Let me keep it right.
You're right.
And he needs to, in other words, be the queen to your king and be the king to your queen.
Amen.
So,
Yes.
or king to your king and queen to your queen. Or, non-binary to your non-binary. I don't want to
Whatever works.
exclude
Right.
anybody.
We're not excluding anybody. Whatever works.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again, love, for sharing your
I got
time
to be
with me.
co-host.
Co-host, yes. You'll be seeing her some more. So please stay tuned for upcoming talks. But in the meantime, there is, and I just wanted to mention because there was a podcast that I was looking at just to kind of get some ideas. And it's called The 13 Attitudes Men Love About Women.
Ooh.
And it was really good. It was an interesting read. So, check it out.
Anyone that stood out to you?
The one that really stood out to me was, as we've talked about, just being your authentic self.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. That's, if you really think about it, that's really the foundation of it, just being you. Because your authentic self is eventually going to come out. It's not going to stay hidden forever. So.
There is only one you in this world.
Exactly.
We are all magnificent,
Yep.
amazing individuals.
Yep.
So why hide it?
Why hide it? And especially why hide it in your relationships?
Amen to that.
So please like, share, and subscribe. We are still trying to build our channel, and we just love to have you guys tune in, because my thing is healthy, happy relationships build healthy, happy communities, and that's what we need, especially in our Black community. And our courses, we have started a new round of courses, July 15th and 16th, our discovery course.
You don't want to miss it.
It's 2 days, so please go to our website, Love Park Connection. That's LOVEPARK connection.com, and register. Okay, and again, that starts July 15th. It's a 2-day course. I would have held a 2-day course. And she's my IT person, so she'll have things going on during the course. So
I'll be holding it down behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yes. So thank you again for tuning in, watching us,
Absolutely.
listening to us, and like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.